So the first thing that we need to do for our buildings is we need to build the roof. So I'm going to look closely at the pictures with my partner and figure out what shape our roof is. I can see that on my griddle and grind picture here that the roof is going up away from the front. It looks like a triangle shape. I could even look at my other pictures and just try my best to figure out what it might look like. Then you're going to use the pieces of cardboard that we have to construct that roof. So looking at this box, this is going to be the front of my building, and this side that's open is going to be the back. We're going to make it kind of like a dollhouse where the back opens up or is open, and we can see the inside of our building or whatever belongs in there, so that this is going to be the front, and that means my roof needs to go up here. So to make my roof a triangle roof, I'm going to look through the pieces that I have, and I'm going to find one that will go all the way across right here. And I could tell already that this is too long, but that's okay. We'd rather find a piece that's a little bit too big than one that is too short. So I'm going to need 2 pieces to go on my top, something like that. And if I turn this on its side, you can see that I want to make them go like this for the roof of my building. And again, they are too long. So the first thing I want to do is get them down to the right size. I'm going to lay this across. I want it to go right there. So I'm going to mark where the edge of the building is so we can get it cut this way first. So with my pencil, I'm just going to make a nice mark right there so that we can see where it needs to be cut. Then I'm going to give this to my teacher or my art teacher to cut, but I don't want to do just one cut at a time. I want to have all of my pieces ready to be cut. That way we're not going back and forth and back and forth. So I'll take my next piece that I need, because remember I'm going to need 2 of them going up here. And I'm going to line it up, make my mark. So now they're both ready to be cut. And again, they could be cut by an adult or a teacher because we have these bigger scissors, and we could also use our paper cutters to cut them. So we can cut them nice and straight for you. If it's a smaller piece of cardboard that you're cutting, then you can cut it with your smaller scissors. This other one. And we're going to save these pieces because these can be used for other things. Maybe they'll be my posts for my porch, or my roof that I have here, or maybe somebody will use them for some part of their building. Then I'm going to take my pieces that are now cut, and I'm going to test them out on here. We can see if they fit. We can see if they are the right length. So they're going to go up like this. Now that roof is really tall. That's probably a bit too tall or too steep for this building. I think I want it to go down just a little bit there, and I can make it hang over a little, or I can have them trimmed. So if I want it to be trimmed, I'm going to lay it right where I want it to go. And again, I can make a mark, so I can draw with my pencil where it needs to be cut, and then it can be cut by an adult. And I want both of them to be the same, so they're both going to get cut at the same time. So they were both just cut down, and now they are a much better height. It's not sticking up crazy far like it was before. And the last thing I'm going to need is a triangle piece going right here. So we can measure that out now, or we can have these hot glued on by a teacher or adult and then add them on. So I'm going to hot glue these on now. Because I am an adult, but if you need something to be hot glued on, you need to ask your teacher or ask an adult to help you with that. If there is a line of people waiting for something to be hot glued, work on another part of your building, and then we can have it glued on. So maybe I could find the piece that I need for right there and start to figure that problem out. But I'm going to hot glue this right now. So now that that has been glued on, it's a lot easier for me to do these triangle pieces. So I'm going to use some more cardboard, and we're going to trace that shape, so make sure that it matches. So I'm going to lay my cardboard down, and then we'll put the building on top, and one person in the group can hold the building while the other traces it. So I'm lining up the bottom edge of the triangle with this straight edge here of my cardboard so that that side is already finished for me. I'm going to need to stand up and look down at it, make sure it's nice and lined up, and then I'll just trace that one edge and the other just like that. And I can have an adult cut this right on those straight lines. And that's going to need to be traced because it's going to match the other side too. So we want one for one side and one for the other. Once your roof pieces are attached, we are ready to start adding on our wall colors. So I'm going to get this cardboard out of my way. We want to keep our workspace nice and neat. Any big scraps we can save. If I look at my griddle and grind here, I do have a front porch, but you can see that that red color goes all underneath and on that porch too. So it'll be easier for me to just put that red color down and then we can add the porch on later. So if you have any details like that on your building, we can add those after the paper is on. Or if you're not sure if you should do that right now, you can always ask your teacher or an adult in your classroom. So my building is red, so I have some red paper here. And to make the paper match the building, we're going to trace it. So I'm going to take my paper and we're going to put it on the side first or the front, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to take this side, and if you look, I have a nice square shape with straight edges. My paper already has straight edges. I'm going to line the building up with the edge of the paper. So this bottom edge right here lines up with this edge here, and this edge here lines up with that one. That way those two sides are already done for me. I don't have to trace them and I don't have to cut them. So they're nice and lined up there, and I'm just going to need to trace the side here. And I can make a little mark where that roof starts underneath there, because I obviously can't go underneath there to trace where I need to. So I can see that I ended up with a line where the edge is and a little mark where it needs to go across. At this point, I can use my ruler to finish that line, or I can use the straight edge of my box too. So I'm going to go across like this, boom, and then you're going to use your scissors to cut it, and we're going to trace it to make one to match for the other side, because both edges of or sides of my building are the same. So I'm going to cut these out, this out, I'm going to trace it to make a second one for the other side. Now I have my two pieces for the ends of the building. I'm going to make sure they fit, they make sure they cover the entire side. You don't have any, gaps or things hanging out. We're going to use our Elmer's glue to glue them down. So we just open up the top of that, and you're going to put a skinny line of glue next to the edge of the paper all the way around, so it's like I'm tracing the edge. My glue matches the shape of my paper. So you can see how I have a square on my square piece, and then I do some squiggles in the middle, and I can stick it on. Make sure it's completely smooth, totally attached. I'm not hitting it, being careful with it. Flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. Skinny line around the edge. I don't want to do a really fat line or it'll squish and get glue all over the place. Smooth it out onto your building. There we go. So now I've got my two sides covered and I need to get the front. So I'm again going to trace it. Got my red paper and I'm going to line up my edges. So I'm lining up this bottom edge here and this side edge. I'm going to do the same thing with the roof shapes. So my roof is green, so I'm going to need to trace my roof shapes with my building. I'm going to lay them on here. I'm done with this red, so I'm going to save it, put it in the scrap pile. Maybe somebody else could use it. Maybe I might need it. And I'm going to trace my roof shapes and then glue those on as well. Now that I've got my roof pieces on here, so I couldn't see this part of my roof in my picture. I decided to make that part green, but it could have also been red to continue that wall color up there. There are some things that we're just not going to see in these pictures, and we're going to have to make those decisions as artists as to what that's going to look like. So now I'm going to move on to my windows and my doors. So we're making a building, and everything on buildings is nice and straight and lined up. We don't have, windows that are crooked or sideways or turned all different ways. So we're going to make sure that our buildings do that too. We want everything to be lined up. So before I can do my windows and my doors, I'm going to need to put a porch on here because my windows are going to need to go underneath this porch like they are in these pictures here, and my door is going to need to go underneath there. I can see right here that my door is underneath that porch and I need those posts and things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that cardboard, whatever pieces I can find, and I can find one that's going to go across from my porch here. So that piece will go right on here. I'm just going to put that to the side for now. And I need some posts to hold up my porch. So if I look at my picture here, I want to try my best to make it match. I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 posts, 5. It looks like we're missing the ones on the corners right there too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 posts holding up that roof. So the roof is going to go like this, and then we need 6 pieces of cardboard going across. All of these things are going to be different for your buildings. You're going to have to problem solve and talk with your partner to make the pieces that you need out of cardboard. So I cut the strips and then had them hot glued onto the roof piece here. So this is going to go right on here. So for the windows and doors of your building, you've probably been given some squares and things that you can use. So I have some white pieces, some blue, and I've got some green for the shutters of our building. I've got a few different items that I'm working with here. And some of these might be perfect for what I need, and others I might need to adjust, or I might need something entirely different. I'm going to look closely at the windows of my building. Most of the windows of our buildings are all going to be the same. So if I take a close look here, I can even really see close here. I'm going to do my best to make a window that looks similar to that. Now that I have a prototype of what my buildings are going to look like, I want to make sure that they're all lined up on here. So we're not going to just glue down one piece at a time. We're going to lay all of the pieces out for the sides of our buildings. And we're going to make sure that they're nice and straight. So if all of my windows need to be straight, we're going to use our rulers. I'm going to put it down going across. So this is where the bottom of all my windows are going to sit. And I'm going to draw myself a line. This is my guideline to make sure that they're all straight. We have to make ourselves a guideline so that we can make sure that they're all straight going across. And then I want one down here too. And then I'm going to line all of my window pieces and my door pieces out. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to check with an adult. So you're going to raise your hand and have a teacher and adult check your work, and when they're checking it, they are looking to see that all of your windows are lined up, that you have the same number of windows on your building as are on the building, and that it all just looks really nice. Obviously I need some more details on my door still, but this is at a point where it is ready to glue. And once you get the okay to glue, then we're going to take one off at a time. We're going to use a glue stick to glue everything, and when we glue, we're going to start with the biggest piece. Make sure you completely cover the back of the piece with glue. So I'm covering it with my purple glue. I can see that it is completely covered, all of the edges, and then I'm going to line it up right on that line, smooth it out so it's not sticking up at all, and I'll add my other pieces on top. So I have my blue here for my glass of my window. That's going in the center. And then I'm going to glue on those little shutters on the edges too. And I'm going to glue down all of these pieces of my building now. Any lines or things that need to be added, we can use our rulers and we can use tools like colored pencils to draw those on. So now I'm going to hot glue my roof on as well as add my roof color. So I added on my roof pieces, my color on the top. These are cardboard color. I could always add white paper on them or just leave them as they are. And then the other thing I added was a piece of cardboard attached to the bottom that just gives it a little bit more stability. But that's our process for our windows and doors. The next thing I'll do is I'll turn this on its side and I'm going to repeat. I'll draw my lines with my ruler, lay out all my windows, check with an adult, and glue them down. After that, we're going to add any other small details that need to be added to your building with any extra time that you have. So out front for my griddle and grind, maybe I'll add my extra details on my windows and doors. I've got lanterns, I've got furniture, I've got a sign, I've got a lot of different things that I can add to this. And then next we'll talk about how to make the inside of our buildings.